maybe a little bit lower. And then if we go to the second, then it just outside the box. But I'm sticking to my thesis that this is where it's going to go. But this is another thing to look at. All right, guys, welcome to the Crypto Wise channel. My name is Dave. Thanks for being here. On this channel, we talk about macro technical analysis, facts in the charts, and we stay cool, calm, and focused. If you've watched my previous XLM video, you would have been informed about the potential of it getting to this support box that I've been talking about. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. I want to give an update on XLM. It saw a pretty aggressive move. Thought it would be good to give some insight as to what I'm thinking is going to happen from here. I'm also going to give a Bitcoin update also. And yeah, let's dive into it. I'm just going to open up this Bitcoin chart. And actually, it should be this one here. I'm going to put that on the weekly. Here we go. All right, so XLM. Basically, XLM got a very nice pump. I talked about it on my recent video of near. And we had this big move from this low point here at about 14 cents. And we saw a 110% move, which gave back more than 50%. And we're still at a 32% increase from that low at the moment. And decreased from that high approximately about 37%. So moments like this, you start thinking, well, was that the low? Did I miss it? Where do I get in? Is it going to rally from here? Is it going to go higher? I just anticipated it was going to pull back because Bitcoin is not seeing a macro reversal. Altcoins, as I've said, often see these impulses on the way down that not only get given back, but sometimes they go lower. So this happens on many altcoin charts on the way down, happens with Bitcoin too, just not as aggressive. It's very common when altcoins get to these macro low points that we see big impulses from there. A good example of this move here looks just like this, right? Reached a macro low points, impulse, not only to give it halfway consolidate and then break down and actually go back to that same level. So there are cases where we see these impulses on a downtrend on the way down, and we actually go further. An example would be this little move here, which was a back test of this double top, went lower. We've seen that over here, which was a back test of this topping structure, went lower. In this case, it's possible it is not that. So this one's a little tricky because it could have actually bottomed. It's possible. And at this point, it's kind of a coin flip, to be honest. The aggressive candle doesn't necessarily mean that it will just go sideways from here, but knowing these coins, it could. So I still give it a higher probability, just less of a higher probability that we're going to see this box by October 1st, first week of October. A few reasons why that is because these impulses do happen on the way down. We have seen an impulse here kind of similar in 2023. Around the same time, actually, you can see this was May, June, and this actually bottomed here. You see this bottom of the screen, 12th of June. So similar time frame, which means if it were to replicate something like this, what was the time frame between this low and the impulse? Was about 518 days. So that would mean potentially here, October 27 might not line up for an impulse, but for this coin maybe. The question right now is that whether or not we're going to reach this macro support between now and October, or now and the next impulse to the upside. Obviously, we want to catch the move low. The likelihood of XLM seeing another macro impulse to the upside is high in the next few years. And obviously, you want to get in when it's at a low side. So the things to watch out for entries will still be this upward sloping trend line that is very possible that it gets wicked into. And this box that I have drawn here between 12 and 10 cents is, well, it's 12 and 11 cents, right? 13 and 11 cents is where I have it. Yeah, it's still probable. It's a little bit less, but I would say this. Look, we can see that on the XLM BTC chart, which is basically XLM against Bitcoin. When this chart performs well, then the XLM chart performs well, and we can see that we've had impulse to the upside, gave it back 50%. Impulse to the upside, gave it back the whole thing and more. Impulse to the upside, I mean, I wonder what it's going to do, right? 2 times in a row. Is the third time the charm? Is this the one that's going to make it rally? I think it's just going to repeat the process, and we go back down into the similar support area, and or maybe even lower, because we can see impulse up. It comes down, and yeah. So pretty much every impulse gets retraced. I do believe that there is a point where this will start sustaining higher, given that we're in a macro triangle formation. If I zoom out on the 2-weekly, this is a massive triangle, a multi-cycle triangle, which is, yeah, looks amazing. And we have we haven't touched the bottom of this triangle. Very often when we touch the top, we reach the bottom. We touch the top, we reach the bottom. I mean, it took a swing up and back down. We touched the top, we reached the bottom. So perhaps we're repeating this chunk where we don't quite reach the bottom until later. So we could potentially see that play out, and then eventually we get to that box maybe by Christmas. Possible, right? That'll give some time for this chart to slowly give away its gains against Bitcoin, and that will actually give some time for Bitcoin to play out the rest of this bear flag, which is another reason why I believe that Bitcoin will see some more downside, XLM will see some more downside, because Bitcoin is in this macro move to the downside. We're about to close the weekly candle. As long as this weekly candle closes here or lower at 65,800, the probabilities of continuation down are still very strong. If we see a weekly close above this level with some volume support, then that greatly increases the probability that something else more bullish is playing out, and then maybe Bitcoin has another move to the upside before continuing down, or that potentially this is some type of low. That's in the cards. That's very possible. I think it's less likely, given that there are many macro factors still pointing to lower targets. The fact that we closed below this level at 65,600 is very significant, because this was the prior candle close high of the previous cycle in 2021. We actually closed below that range, which is very important. We can see that when we were breaking out of this range last year, prior to doing that, we had a hard time sustaining above it. We actually got rejected once prior to breaking it, broke it, one candle close back test, up we went. So perhaps we're going to see the opposite of that. And yeah, of course, there's all these candles that closed above, but they were immediately given back, so they're not really sustained targets. But on the attempt to break up, we saw a beautiful typical structural move where we get rejected by that level here, pull back, and then it built some strength to break it, which was the confirmation. Back test, up we go. So perhaps we're doing the opposite of that, that now we broke the range, that same level, we broke it. This candle is the back test, next week comes down. Very possible, and then we meet our target of the bear flag, which could very well be at that 52K level based on the measured move price target. So, and if Bitcoin does that, it's going to bring the altcoins down with it, which would signify potentially XLM giving away from Bitcoin, which would signify XLM also giving away its gains that it just recently gained, which happens a lot with altcoins. So there's a few factors playing into this, right? And this is why I'm still convinced that we're going to see this lower target get hit. It's just a matter of when, in my opinion. We could see an extended consolidation where this area gets defended and then maybe a wick into that area, or a shorter consolidation like this in that zone. Let's see, did we go lower here? No, it was a higher low. So, I mean, it's possible that this is the low. And then let's see, if I adjust the triangle. So the triangle could be adjusted potentially. So if I adjust it now, maybe that was a low. If I adjust it like this, go from wick, and I move it to here. So it could be that the triangle is like this. So this is a different scenario here. I'm kind of like changing my opinion here a little bit as things are going. So if we look, because that was clearly a low, that was clearly defended with a strong impulse. And potentially the triangle is like this. So it's two scenarios. It's hard to know for sure if this is the triangle or if it was the way I had it before. We'll know better when Bitcoin makes a decisive move and decides to either reach that box that we've drawn here. So that's kind of what I'd recommend, is watch how Bitcoin moves here, and that'll be the decisive factor. Bitcoin pulling down into this 44K area, XLM could easily drop back into below the range that it made here, and see those lower levels at 12, 13 to 11 cents, and that the triangle possibly is like this or like that. I have it drawn like this because, well, we can see wicks at the top, and XRP had a very similar spread on the its massive triangle that it had, that it broke out of. So I'm just kind of mirroring that one a little bit. So yeah, the range of buying now, in my opinion, has grown. I would do something like this. So anywhere between, I would say, 15.5 and 11 cents now, due to that fact. Anywhere around here is a good buying zone, I would say. I wouldn't buy here just because if this was the low, then there's a high probability it'll go back down there, considering where we are in the market, and that Bitcoin still has a lot of factors pointing to more downside. So yeah, that's my update with XLM. If you find this helpful, like, share, subscribe. Appreciate the support, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.